Sophia had always known things others didn't. It was a gift, or perhaps a curse. From a young age, she'd seen the world differently, with glimpses of people who didn't belong to this realm, their translucent forms lingering at the edges of her vision. By the time she was an adult, Sophia had honed her abilities, becoming a well-known medium who could communicate with the dead. But her method was different. She didn't speak to spirits out loud. Instead, she drew their messages. With a pencil in hand and a blank canvas before her, Sophia would enter a trance and let the spirits guide her hand. Her sketches were often unsettling, but undeniably accurate. People came from miles away, hoping she could bring them answers, closure, or at least some connection to the ones they had lost. It wasn't until she went blind that things started to change. The accident had been sudden, the doctors baffled. One moment Sophia was sitting at her easel working on a particularly difficult piece, and the next her vision blurred, then went entirely black. No physical cause, nothing they could explain, just darkness. For weeks she grappled with the loss, but she didn't stop working. Her hands still moved, guided by something unknown. She could still feel the presence of the spirits, their energy, and the way it pulled her into the world. By now, instead of seeing with her eyes, she saw with her mind. Visions would flood her, clearer than ever before, and she could draw furiously, capturing them on paper. Her clients were still amazed at her work. How could a blind woman produce such accurate depictions of the other side? But they didn't know the truth. Sophia's drawings were no longer just visions. They were invasions. The spirits didn't just communicate with her anymore, they entered her. They crawled into her mind and through her fingers. Their twisted shapes pulled her into a world she could no longer escape. Each time she drew, she felt herself slipping further away. One evening, a man arrived, desperate for a connection to his wife, who had died a year ago. He sat across from Sophia, watching her as she closed her eyes, her hands hovering over the paper. She could feel the presence of the spirit. His wife was near, but there was something off about her. The spirit felt wrong. Sophia began to draw, her fingers moving almost involuntarily, guided by the cold energy that enveloped her. As the image took shape, she felt the pressure in her chest, a tightness that worsened with each stroke. The figure on the page twisted, growing more unsettling, and then she felt it, a sharp pain in her head. She gasped, but it wasn't her voice that echoed in the room. It was hers, and someone else's. The woman in the drawing was no longer a mere figure on paper. She was inside Sophia, digging into her mind. Sophia's breath quickened, and the man across from her stood, horrified, as he watched her. The spirit, now fully alive within Sophia, began to speak, her voice low and mocking. "You wanted to see," the spirit hissed, her breath cold in Sophia's ears. "But when the blind see, they can never unsee." Sophia tried to scream, but her throat seized. Her hands trembled uncontrollably. The pencil snapped under the pressure of the drawing. The figure on the page was now alive, its eyes staring up at her with malicious glee. As the man stepped back in terror, Sophia realized the truth. The spirits didn't just talk through her, they took her, piece by piece, until there was nothing left. She was no longer a medium. She was their vessel, and they weren't finished with her yet. The last thing Sophia saw before the darkness fully consumed her was the man's horrified face, his scream ringing in her ears. But it wasn't his scream. It was her own, and it would never stop.